Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. We're really excited to do this webinar and to share all these recipes with you all. I'm Tony Quintana, Plant-Based Eating Program Manager with Animal Protection in New Mexico.
I'm Mickey Quintana, wife, mom,
She's
cook,
the brains of most of this operation. So yeah, we hope everybody is staying warm, staying safe on multiple levels. And it's a good day to just cozy up and learn some recipes and do some cooking, maybe some baking. So hopefully you enjoy what we have in store. And we hope that you all are as enthusiastic about pumpkin everything as we are in our house, because we are really into it. So we're not going to do a whole lot of talking to begin. We're just going to kind of jump right into it. We are going to demonstrate all of these recipes here: pumpkin spice scones, pumpkin butter, pumpkin spice chickpeas, pumpkin pasta, pumpkin pie, pumpkin cheesecake, and pumpkin spice latte. How many times can we say pumpkin in one webinar? We might try and break the record.
Yep, it's a lot of demos too. I think it's the most we've had in a webinar.
Yeah, we got really excited for this. We also, after that, we're going to share a few additional ideas, different ways that we've added pumpkin to just, traditional or common recipes and meals that we make, and just share some fun ways to add more pumpkin if this isn't enough for you. And then some resources and Q&A. We'll have a few minutes for Q&A at the end. And I had to share this picture of our cat, Frodo, because every time I set the stage for a demo, he thought we were setting the stage for him. Naturally took center stage. So he might visit us during the webinar.
Yep.
So without further ado, we started with like a breakfasty food. So some pumpkin spice scones. A lot of these recipes, we kind of took other recipes and then adapted them. We like to make them simpler.
Yeah.
Just any way we can simplify.
Yeah, a lot of the recipes call for, instead of pumpkin pie spice, it might call for all the individual spices, and we don't always have that, but I pretty typically have pumpkin pie spice in the cabinet, and so we just
can lump that all in.
Yeah.
Or sometimes using different things we have on hand, thinking about how we can switch it up. So there was a question, will the recipes be available online? Yes. I'm glad you asked that, because I meant to say that before. And yes, they will. They will be online. So we already have another really good question. Where can I find vegan half and half? Because this recipe calls for some vegan half and half. So I think lots of different places. We typically find it at Walmart, Sprouts.
I would imagine Whole Foods and Natural Grocers probably has some.
Yeah. And Smith's, I know, has some. Target has a good variety. And so it just depends on what you're looking for, because different stores have different varieties. So like the Walmart by our house has the Silk brand that I like, but they never have like pumpkin spice or other ones like that.
But Target will carry a pumpkin spice creamer or something.
Yeah.
And for this recipe, I have used just plain soy milk too before a vegan half and half was available. I've used just soy milk.
Right. Yeah. So, and we'll get more into that in the demo. So let's go ahead and we'll share the demo of these scones, and then maybe we could talk a little bit more about them. And trust me, they are amazing.
Okay, this recipe is going to be for pumpkin scones, and in my big bowl I have 2 cups of flour, 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, a half teaspoon of salt, and 1.5 teaspoon of baking powder. Just whisk that together. The pumpkin pie spice smells good. All right, so I have that to start. So we also need 6 tablespoons of cold butter. Today we are using the Country Crock plant-based butter. And what I've done is I've taken the 6 tablespoons and I've cut it up into little chunks. And you want to be careful not to handle the butter too much, because your warm hands will melt it. So now we take our whisked together dry ingredients, and we're going to put the butter in. and kind of spread it around. And then we're going to cut the butter. Now we have a pastry whisk, but if you don't have that, you can also use a fork or 2 butter knives. So I'm going to start with this and then I'll show you how I use the fork. So all you do is it's got the lines and you just get in there. And you just mix it in until the butter is like squished in and it's kind of crumbly. The flour looks crumbly. Now with a fork, sometimes I feel like the butter's not breaking up the way I want it to, and I use a fork anyway. But get all this butter back in there. And I just take the flat end of the fork and go like this, all the way around, kind of smushing the butter in. When we use butter in our biscuit recipe, I do the same thing with a fork. I kind of feel like I get farther along with the fork than I do with the pastry cutter, but that's just me. You will find that you have some chunks that are still kind of big, and those are the ones I go after to make a little bit smaller. But we're getting there now with this. You want some good chunks of butter in your scones because it really gives it that sort of good flaky taste. And the same thing with the biscuits. That's a good trick with the biscuits is if you're using butter, you want some chunks of butter in it. And then in a small separate bowl, we have 6 tablespoons of brown sugar, and initially I had put it in that bowl and had to remove it, so that's the white stuff in there. But in a separate bowl, 6 tablespoons of brown sugar and 1/3 cup of pumpkin puree. Trying to make a mess on our table. I like to get all that pumpkin in there. And then 1/3 cup of, it calls for heavy cream, but we're going to use half and half. And I've also made this with just like a soy milk or plant-based milk. So 1/3 cup. And we're going to do 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And we will whisk this together. Okay, and we get this lovely sauce. Now we are going to combine our wet ingredients into our dry ingredients. I like using the spatula, the rubber spatulas, because you can get all of that juicy goodness into your bowl. And then we mix until just combined. Like with biscuits, you don't want to overwork the dough. So we've mixed until about here and it's not really coming together. So now we want to use our hands to sort of knead it together into a ball. Now I know I said you don't want to handle the butter very much. So if you feel like your dough is getting warm as you start to get into this part of the mixing, you can stick it back in the fridge for about 10 minutes or so and keep it chilled. and then you can do a little bit more kneading. And we are actually going to go do that because that also helps shape the scones a little easier. And it keeps our little chunks of butter intact. So we're gonna pause here, put it in the fridge for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and show you how to shape and cut scones. Okay, so we are back with our dough ball. It's been chilled for a little while. And you just have your ball, and we are going to flatten it into a round. And as you flatten, you want to shape and close up any of those cracks. And we are going to flatten it until it's about 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch thick. It will puff up a bit while we're baking, but that's good. Sometimes I think, oh, this is a good thickness, and then it cooks and it's like super big, and my kids are like, yay! So just, go until it looks good to you. And then some of these will be big, but we're gonna mostly keep it in a round as much as we can. And when I was mixing the dry ingredients, I forgot to mention if you wanted to put anything in it, like some nuts or raisins or craisins, after you sift together or whisk together the dry ingredients, that's when you would put in your mix-ins. So now we're just going to cut this in 8s, and it's just easiest to do it like a pizza. And you can go smaller if you want, and make 16s or 12s, because these are a pretty good size. Cut it just like that, as evenly as possible. We're going to transfer it to either a slip pat mat or parchment paper or a greased baking sheet, and then we just carefully put them on. And sometimes I just transfer the round and let it cook in the round, and that works just fine also, but I'm going to actually follow the instructions this time. And we'll provide a recipe for this as well. And then we just put it in a preheated oven at 425 and bake about 10 or 15 minutes. And we'll be back with that. So our scones have come out of the oven, and they've been cooling for quite a while, so that the room temperature. And I did that because I'm going to put a glaze on them, and I don't want the glaze to get melty and then it just gets soaked in. I want that kind of glaze to stay on top. And you want your scones to come out just golden brown. This little bit got a little darker, but it'll be just fine. The bottoms tend to brown quicker than the tops, so you don't want your tops to get too dark, because then you run the risk of burning your bottoms. All right, so we're going to make a pumpkin spice glaze to go on top. You could also just do cinnamon if you want, or you can add no spices and just have the regular powdered sugar glaze. So I have a 1/2 cup of powdered sugar. We are going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. And this is a 1/4 teaspoon. That's why I am doing 2 scoops. And then 1 tablespoon of a plant-based milk of your choice. And the milk with powdered sugar to make a glaze really goes a long way. So you want to start with a little bit and then mix it up. So we're just going to whisk. And the trick with powdered sugar glazes, this kind of icing, is you want, like I said, a little bit of milk goes a long way. So you start with a little bit. So if you want a real runny glaze, you will put more milk. And if you want a stiffer glaze, you will put less milk. Wow, this smells really good. Okay, so you see, here's our glaze. It's decently runny, but it should stay on our scones pretty well. I think it'll be good. So now, just take a spoon, and sometimes I try to arrange my scones in an alternating pattern like this because then I can just glaze across and it'll drip down the sides a little bit. Just take a spoon and go to town. Naturally, if you do this on somebody's plate and you serve them, at least in my house, they'll be happy for the extra dribbles down the side and on the plate, and they'll just eat it up. All right, and there are our pumpkin spice scones.
So we had a few questions. One was, is the half and half canned or fresh? That was fresh. I have not seen canned half and half.
I've only seen it in like the refrigerated section.
You can get canned vegan evaporated milk, but I haven't seen half and half. But that's always, fresh in the refrigerated section. So good question. And then another question.
Which gluten-free flour would we recommend? So I personally haven't worked a lot with gluten-free flours, and maybe we'll get some flour and start incorporating that. So thank you for that suggestion. But I have heard and seen in a lot of recipes that King Arthur gluten-free flour is really good, and Bob's Red Mill gluten-free flour is really good as well in baking and cooking. So those are the two that I would recommend checking out first, just because I see those being used often as substitutes.
Yeah. And again, I'm glad you asked that question because we do need to venture into some more gluten-free stuff. So keep us on our toes with
Bob's
that.
Red Mill has a 1-to-1 ratio as well. So maybe we'll get that for our next webinar that has some kind of baking or something in it. And we'll try just doing 1-to-1 straight replacement and see how that works too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Now these scones
they were really, really
so good.
Yeah, the boys were really happy.
The glaze on top, I was like, do you really have to pumpkin spice the glaze? You do. She was right.
I just, if we're going to have pumpkin spice everything, let's really have pumpkin spice everything and go that extra mile.
Yeah. All right. So our next one is pumpkin butter. Now you can use pumpkin butter, just like you would apple butter or, there's a number of ways. I think that on fresh baked biscuits is like the only way to do it. It's so good. But there's a million ways. You can put it in oatmeal or on waffles or pancakes or a bunch of different stuff like that. We ate it on biscuits and it was really good and really easy to make. Yes. As you will see right now.
Yeah, this is a crock pot recipe, but I have seen some recipes where it's just like 20 minutes on stovetop, but this was really, really tasty. So I might recommend that. Just stick to the crock pot.
So you're going to see this is a super simple recipe for pumpkin butter. Basically, we're just going to use some canned pumpkin puree, some sugar, some apple juice, and then some spices and vanilla. We're adapting this recipe. The original recipe that we found calls for a few different spices. We didn't have all of those on hand, so we're just going to use the pumpkin pie spice, which combines the different spices that it called for, and in roughly the same type of ratios. So all we're going to do is whisk our ingredients in a bowl and then put them into the crock pot and slow cook it in the crock pot. So we're going to start with the pumpkin. It calls for 2 15-ounce cans of pumpkin puree or 1 30-ounce can, which is what this is. So we're just going to put this into the bowl here. Next, we're going to add 1 cup of sugar. This is just organic cane sugar. So 1 cup of this. And then 1/2 cup of apple juice. And again, this is just regular, no sugar added apple juice. You could also use apple cider for this recipe as well. But we had juice, so that's what we're using. Then we're going to add 1½ teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. So like I said, the original recipe calls for about 1½ teaspoons of spice, of different types of spices. And we're just adapting and simplifying. And lastly, 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. And it's that simple. I'm gonna whisk these all together. And then once it's combined, we're just going to throw it into the crock pot. It slow cooks for about 3 hours. And the last 2 hours are with the lid sort of slightly vented. So after 1 hour, we're going to mix it, and then we're going to vent the lid and put it for another 2 hours on low setting. Scrape the sides, make sure I get all of that spice whisked in. And then we're just gonna, like I said, pour it into the crock pot. Going to use my rubber spatula here. And this is ready to slow cook for 3 hours. All right, so we're back with the pumpkin butter. This slow cooked for 3 hours in the crock pot, just like we said. We let it cool for a bit, so now we've got this nice thick texture. It made this much plus this jar. So the recipe was supposed to make about 2 cups. We ended up with a little over 3 cups. But the flavor is really good, the texture is really good, so that's what's important. We did just make some fresh biscuits so that we could spread this on here. That recipe for the biscuits is on our website as well. Very easy 15-minute biscuits. And you can see how this spreads on the bread. And there you go. We're ready to enjoy some biscuits with pumpkin butter. Again, that pumpkin butter was really good.
It was really
a
good.
hit for.
I think we got a little bit more than 2 cups because we didn't vent it for the last 2 hours. We missed that step with everything else we were trying to record, but it was really delicious still. So
Yeah.
So if you miss that step, you'll just end up with a little bit more. The flavor is really, because I think it's supposed to like condense the flavor into a small amount, and it was still really delicious.
Yeah, like I said, we got the flavor and texture, which was what we were going for.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
It was all good. All right.
Next
so
is chickpeas.
And I was surprised with how good these were.
They
I was not like convinced. And then I tried them and I was like, these are my new favorite snack.
He said that when I did buffalo, and then he said that when I did barbecue, and now pumpkin spice.
These are like the top notch. And yeah, you just have to try them because they don't like really taste like very pumpkin-y.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting.
It's subtle.
I'm not sure. It's subtle. There you go. It's hard to like put my finger on exactly what they taste like, but you got to try them and it's super easy. All right, so let's make some pumpkin spice roasted chickpeas. delicious snack, very easy recipe to put together. This recipe calls for 1 can of chickpeas, or you can use 1.5 cups of cooked chickpeas. We just used a can. We drained it, rinsed it, and we're gonna do a little trick here where you take a towel or a cloth napkin, do a little bit of drying with your hands. So what that's gonna do is separate some of the skins. So some of these little skins are coming off, and those make little crunchy pieces in your snack that add a little more texture, and sometimes the little crunchy pieces get a little extra flavoring, and it's kind of like a little bonus in your chickpeas. So next we have our chickpeas here. We're just going to add some ingredients into it. So, and this basically we're just going to add chickpeas, some pumpkin puree, some maple syrup, and some spice, and that's all there is to it. So we're just using canned pumpkin puree. This recipe calls for 1/3 of a cup. So we're just going to add that here. I'm going to level this off a little bit. And we're going to do 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. You could do a little more if you want it more sweet. You could do less. Of course, you know, everything is to taste. So if you find that they're not sweet enough, you can put another tablespoon in there. If it's a little too sweet, you could do a little less. This is another one of our famous adaptations where we use pumpkin pie spice instead of a mixture of spices that are all contained within the pumpkin pie spice. So we're going to do 1.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. And again, if the flavor is really strong, bring it down to 1 teaspoon. See how that is for you. Or some people might like a little bit more. All right, and then we're just going to mix this all together. Make sure that you want your ingredients to be well mixed and you want your chickpeas to be well coated. So the recipe, and most recipes will tell you to mix your ingredients together separately and then sort of pour that mixture over the chickpeas. We are 1 bowl type of people. And for smaller recipes like this, you can get away with doing it this way. Sometimes if it's a bigger thing and you've got a lot going on, or you really need to whisk together the ingredients, you can't really get away with that. But with this one, we can definitely get away with doing it this way in 1 bowl. So see, we've got all of our ingredients mixed. We have the chickpeas well coated. We're just going to spread these out on a baking sheet, on a lined baking sheet. We're going to bake them for 1 hour at 350, kind of turning them every 15 minutes or so to make sure that they cook evenly and don't stick. And then we'll have some roasted chickpeas. All right, here are the chickpeas. We took them out of the oven, let them cool for a while. And so now these are ready to snack on. You can see they've got a nice crispy texture. They've got a nice coating on them. There's some of these little skins that fell off that made these little crunchy pieces. This is how much the recipe made. This was 1 can. So it might be worth the effort to double it, as this will go pretty quickly in our house. We did taste them and the flavor is really good. Yeah, I feel like I can't express how surprised I was with how good they were. And I really like pumpkin everything, obviously, but
Yeah.
for some reason the chickpeas I wasn't as convinced.
Yeah. I think I would prefer it with 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. That's the only change that I would make. But they were really tasty.
Yeah, but the pumpkin pie spice, that was a good amount.
That was a good amount, yeah.
Well, I think we decided we could do a little bit more, which is why I put 2 teaspoons on there. In the demo, we did 1.5, and then we thought we can actually up it a little bit more. A little more maple syrup if you liked it a little bit sweeter. I liked it like that, but I could always go sweeter too, and then pumpkin pie spice as well.
Yep.
So, all right. Moving right along to some more goodness.
I'm sorry. This was my surprise recipe because this was our first time trying it, was for the Pumpkin Everything webinar, and this will become a staple in our house. It's really, really good.
Mhm.
Yes.
So if you're not here for like the baked goods and all, you want some food with pumpkin in it, oh, this is the way to go.
This is the way to go.
Trust us.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, think of any questions you have as we go through the demo here. All right. Now we're cooking.
Okay, so for this recipe, we are doing pumpkin pasta, and we are starting with 1.5 tablespoons of vegan butter and some garlic. And we're just gonna let the butter melt, and then we'll saute this up. We're also going to be using 1 can of pumpkin puree. We're also going to use a can of coconut milk and some salt and paprika. For the pasta, we chose to get the Trader Joe's Fall zucchetti pasta. It's butternut pasta, and it kind of looks like a little pumpkin. We thought that'd be a fun combination. So we just saute this up. We just saute this up for about 2 minutes. I think you want your temperature for this sauteing about medium. And then we just add all our other ingredients into the pan. I like to add the pumpkin puree so that the wet coconut milk doesn't splash all over the place all crazy when I put it in the hot pan. Kind of tempers that heat a little bit. And this is about 3/4 of a teaspoon of paprika and 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And we'll mix it. Get it all mixed in and then whisk it together to really get it mixed well. Get all that pumpkin. And then once it's mixed well, you simmer it on about medium for 5 to 10 minutes. You do not have to stir constantly. I'm just still getting it well mixed. Eventually it'll start to bubble up a little. And just stir every so often. Okay, so we have turned off our heat and we let this cook for about 5 minutes until the sauce thickened up. You can let it go a little bit longer and see if it gets a little thicker if you want it thicker, but it smells really good. So let's add some pasta and then we'll go from there. So these are the shapes of the little pasta, and they mostly kept their shape, but some of them fell apart. And so we're just gonna add our pasta. This is 2 bags, so it's kind of a lot of pasta. So we'll just add some and mix it in until we get a ratio we like. I'm kind of folding to get it mixed here, because if you slightly overcook your pasta and it's really tender and then you mix really hard, you break it up even more. So I'm doing this like gentle fold. That's a good trick. All right, I think that looks pretty good. It's really saucy. You could add more pasta if you didn't want it as saucy, but this looks like a good amount for us. All right, try it. Blow on it first.
That is really good.
Perfect. That tastes amazing.
Do you taste the pumpkin?
It tastes like magic.
It tastes
That
like
is
pumpkin,
that is what it tastes like. It tastes
but it's pasta, which is throwing me
like
off.
magic.
It's really good though.
Like I don't
to
really
eat this, right?
Yeah, that's dinner.
This
Oh my
is
gosh,
dinner.
it's really good.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Still recording.
Yeah, this is really good.
I like the creamy, and it's almost got like cheesy in it almost.
Oh my
Almost,
god.
but it's not.
Almost.
This is like on the tip.
It tastes like magic. That's all I gotta
All
say.
right, I forgot to introduce our guests that were doing the taste test.
Yep.
And we decided to share that like candid taste test video because we wanted to convey a little bit about how like we were like, oh my, this is good.
Yes. I was. Oh my gosh, this is so good.
And even the kids were like, oh my,
Yeah.
we can eat all of this, right?
Mhm. So we have a couple questions. Does the sauce taste like coconut because of the coconut milk? And no, actually, it didn't at all. The flavors really blended well together. We had used smoked paprika when I made it because that's all we had. I was out of regular paprika. So I don't know if that did something different, but we didn't taste the coconut at all. A substitute for garlic is another question we got, and I would say that you could skip it altogether, but you could also try onion maybe, cut up really small, or some onion powder, and maybe that will have a similar flavor profile.
I feel like the paprika and the creaminess with the pumpkin is like the main.
I think so.
I don't even remember tasting the garlic, but
Right.
I don't know what it tastes like without it.
Yeah. So
But that, yeah,
yeah.
those are good questions.
And then a question about what would we serve with the pumpkin pasta. So the sauce is really a star. So I'm big on like a side salad with some garlic bread like we have in the picture, but you could also do some broccoli, some green beans, maybe some asparagus. Ever since we made it, I've been trying to decide what would be good as like a mix in, because sometimes I like to mix in veggies with a saucy sauce like this, but I haven't decided. So the sauce was just so good on its own. But I do think those, like I like color. So for me, I think a green vegetable on the side would look really nice. I also think something red. So I really like roasting cherry tomatoes and broccoli together is really, really tasty. And that I think would look really nicely on the side too.
Just as you were saying that, I thought that roasted red pepper might be good to mix into it.
That might be good to mix
That might be a
into.
good mix in.
Mm-hmm.
And Mickey always serves pasta with bread. That's why there's bread there. Like it's not.
It's really hard for me to not, like, it just does, if it doesn't feel right. There should be a fork with pasta on it in one hand and bread in the other hand. So that's my Italian roots right there, I think.
Yeah, we could make a box of like Amy's mac and cheese, and she would be like, I need bread with this.
Mac and cheese is not that much, but other pastas,
I'm
yes.
exaggerating. Okay.
But other pastas.
So good questions on that. Thank you so much.
much.
And I would recommend trying that pasta. Not that Trader Joe's is sponsoring this or anything, but it was just really good with.
It was a really
pasta.
good combination. Yeah.
But I mean, it would go good with penne or anything.
Yeah, and I think the 2 bags for the amount of sauce that there was about right, because we had a little bit of pasta left over, but we find that people in the house like that pasta plain sometimes too, just a little butter and garlic added to it. But it was also still pretty saucy, so we could have added more of the pasta in. So I think 2 bags for this recipe is about right.
Totally. All right, what do we have next?
Pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin pie. Of course, what would this webinar be without pumpkin pie, right? So we did have to call in for some reinforcements on this one. We ourselves do not make pumpkin pie very frequently, if ever, since we've gone vegan. My sister, however, makes pumpkin pie for us every year around the holidays. When we went vegan, she, being her amazing self, figured out how to veganize everything that she would traditionally make for the holidays. And so I asked her if she could share some of her secrets and wisdom.
And I will say that probably because she's always made it, we haven't figured it out.
Like, why? Yeah, that's what, when we were planning this,
real.
I'm like, oh wait, we don't even know how to make pumpkin pie.
Maybe your
What
sister
are we
will help
gonna
us
do?
out. So we have some guest cooks for this video.
Yeah, and everyone in their house kind of got in the action and
helped along.
Yeah. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Lorelai, and I am 7 years old, and this is my mom.
Hi, I'm Angel Quintana. I'm Tony Quintana's sister. Today we're doing a pumpkin pie demonstration. The ingredients are half a cup silken tofu with 2 tablespoons cornstarch. This acts as an egg replacer. We have 2 to 3 tablespoons pumpkin pie spice, 3/4 cup sugar, 15-ounce canned pumpkin, and
vegan evaporated milk. Today we are using this ready-made evaporated coconut milk, but in the past we have made our own evaporated milk by boiling down soy milk.
And to finish, we have the pie crust, and of course to top with the so delicious Cocoa Whip.
That's my favorite. I love it.
So we're going to use the food processor to make these pies because it helps cream the tofu really smooth, and you don't want any chunks of tofu in your pies. So we're going to start with the egg replacer, the cornstarch, and the silken tofu blended up in a food processor so that it can blend really smoothly, and we're going to add in the pumpkin and blend some more. Once the pumpkin and the tofu is all blended well together, you don't want any chunks of tofu or you can taste it in the pie. Once it's blended really well together like it is here, then we'll go ahead and add in the dry ingredients. The sugar and the pie spices. Give that another whirl. And then we'll add in the evaporated milk, blend it once more, and we'll be ready for baking.
Once it's well blended, we're going to put it inside the pie crust and then pop it into the oven. After the pie has been in the fridge for several hours, it is time to taste test. Then you could top it with Cocoa Whip.
And
Enjoy.
it's delicious.
What was that squeaky noise? This is really squishy.
How do you like it?
No.
Mmm.
Thank you for watching. Please enjoy.
All right. Hopefully you enjoyed our guest cooks. My niece Lorelai was really excited to to do that, and it worked out because my sisters don't really like doing videos. So
Yeah.
just let her star in it. All right. So we had some great questions. One was, can I use my Vitamix instead of a food processor? We would say
I would say yeah.
absolutely. You might stop it and use a rubber spatula to kind of push down the edges and then put it back on every so often. You might have to do that. We use our Vitamix for recipes that call for the food processor all the time, and just do that route. And then, is it a 10-inch crust? And well, I believe so. The recipe calls for a 9-inch crust. I'm not sure how big of a difference that is.
But it looks like they just got the vegan store-bought pie crust. And I know I've seen those at Sprouts, especially this time of year. And there's usually a whole wheat one and a regular flour one. And I don't know, maybe there's a gluten-free flour one too.
Yeah. But
and then also Lorelai filled the pie crust a little high, so don't fill it that full. Give it a little bit more space at the top.
She got a little excited.
Yeah.
So they probably fixed that out a little bit.
Yep.
So cool. That's pumpkin pie. It's actually not as hard as I thought it would be. This website that's linked at the bottom, they offer 4 different options for your egg replacer. And naturally, my sister has tried all of them over the years and asked us which one was the best. Every year it's like, is this pumpkin pie better or worse than last year's?
I don't know. They're all tasty.
They're all good, but she's landed on the silken tofu and cornstarch combo as the egg replacer for the pumpkin pie. That's what won in our family.
And then there's a note in there, and she thinks it's pretty important that you start your temperature at 400 degrees and you put your pie in and then you reduce the temperature. So don't skip that note either, because I think that it helps it firm up really quickly, and then it cooks all the way through. So it's still tasty, but the texture is a little different if you miss that high temperature to low temperature.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Next, we have another delicious dessert.
This is I think this is my favorite. I think I prefer her pumpkin cheesecake over her pumpkin pie.
Which says a lot
because growing up, my dad used to make 2 pumpkin pies and joke that one was for me. I love pumpkin pie.
Yeah. So this is her, my sister Natalie's original recipe. She tried different recipes over the years, and again, she wanted she's that person that's
has to perfect it.
Have to get it perfect. And our family just loves this to pieces. We like to serve it with a little whipped cream on top, but you could do whatever you want to do with that. So yeah, here's the ingredients, and we have
another guest cook video demo.
Another short guest cook demo, exactly.
Hi, I'm Angel, and this is my daughter Lorelai. Today we're going to be making pumpkin cheesecake.
The ingredients are 1 pack of silken tofu, 2 packets of vegan cream cheese, 1 can of pumpkin, 1 cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, 2 to 3 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, a dash of salt, and
1/4 teaspoon baking soda. And then at the end, we put everything into a graham cracker crust. You have to be very careful to read the ingredients because some pie crusts come with honey. So you just got to make sure that it's honey-free to make sure it's vegan.
And decorate with whipped cream.
So we're going to use the food processor to make these pies because it helps cream the tofu really smooth, and you don't want any chunks of tofu in your pies. So first we're going to put in the tofu for the pumpkin cheesecake, the silken tofu, 1 whole package. We're going to blend that smooth, and then we'll add in the dry ingredients. Next we're going to add in the pumpkin and cream it some more. So once you have all the pumpkin in, go ahead and puree it again. Okay, once you have the pumpkin and the tofu mixed well together, we're going to add in the cream cheese. Okay, once we have the cream cheese mixed in, we're going to add in the dry ingredients, the sugar, the spices, the flour. Put that in gently and...
But don't spill it. Don't spill it.
And then blend one more time until it's thoroughly set. And this does make 2 pies.
After it's all mixed, you're going to want to pour it into your pie crust. Once it's all smooth, pop it in the oven.
After the pies have been chilling for several hours, you cut and enjoy. This is a traditional cheesecake recipe, but we like to use the store-bought ready-made crust, which makes 2 pies instead of 1. Taste test time. Time to taste.
So excited.
The cheesecake.
I took
Very creamy, isn't it?
one more.
Thank you for joining us.
We got some great questions that came up. So we'll go ahead and get to those. And then we have one more brief demo, and then we'll hang around. We're happy to stay past the hour, but we want to be mindful of your time. So
yeah. So our first question was what brand of cream cheese? And for this, in the video, you saw that they had used Miyoko's. And Natalie, the recipe creator, says that she likes Kite Hill also. And that's what she used last year. And so this year doing this with Miyoko's was because that's what they could find. And she says she thinks she might like it better. So it looks like Kite Hill or Miyoko's are her 2 main suggestions. And then another question about where to get the vegan cream cheese. Primarily Whole Foods, Natural Grocers, Sprouts.
those are the main places we go for
yeah.
it. We have to kind of go out of our way to one of those places to get the cream cheese.
Yeah, the cream cheese, definitely. And then the last question we got about this recipe, and it applies to the pumpkin pie as well, is about draining the tofu, pressing or draining the tofu. And our chef says to drain them. Yes, to drain them. I don't know that you need to press them super hard to get most of the water, but you do want to drain and probably just do a simple normal press like you might for tofu scramble or something.
Yeah, because the silken tofu is so soft, if you try and press it, it'll
probably fall apart.
It won't work out, but draining it for sure.
And then there'll be more detailed description of how to put everything together once we get the recipe card printed up and up on the website. So that'll have some more information on how to put it together and press or drain and all of that good stuff.
This one will be an exclusive to our website.
Yes.
And then somebody said in the chat that Smith's now has good tasting vegan cream cheese as well, which I'm not surprised. Smith's has been adding a lot of good products.
We'll have to check that out because I like cream cheese on my bagels.
Yeah, and we're kind of picky, so.
Mhm.
All right. So lastly, the last demonstration we have, and this one's really short, is a pumpkin spice latte. Because again, what would this be if we didn't do a PSL? And I've loved these for years and years and years before they really became a thing. And no one cares about that now because um, no one believes me, but it's fine. But this was really good, and so I really, wanted to include this and share the pumpkin spice latte. That again, my sister created this recipe, again from bringing other ones together, and so.
And Tony has 3 sisters, so you will see different names.
I just say my sister, my sister, my sister, and who are all these people? They're all my sisters. All right, here we go. All right, so now we're going to assemble our pumpkin spice latte, otherwise known as a #PSL. So what I've done beforehand is I prepped the pumpkin sauce, which is literally just throwing the ingredients in a blender and blending them up. And that consists of agave syrup, some plant-based half and half. I'm a big fan of the Silk. You can use whatever brand you like. Some vanilla extract, pumpkin puree, and pumpkin pie spice. So we blended that all together, and that's what this is. I've also brewed some coffee. I use the French press, which I'm a fan of. You can do any type of coffee that you want. This is where you get to make it your own. And it's the way that you do the coffee is going to depend on how you like to make and enjoy your coffee. So you can use drip coffee and just make it a little bit stronger. Or you can, if you do espresso or kind of whatever you do. I like to make strong coffee in the French press. And then I heated 1/4 of a cup of soy milk. And if you have a frother or something like that, you can do that at this step. I don't have that, so I just use a microwave, and that's totally fine. So now we're just going to assemble it with the ingredients that we have. So I'm just going to take my coffee. I'm going to put about 6 ounces of coffee in the cup, and you don't have to measure it super precisely. I am, however, because this cup is the exact size I need it to be. So if I put a little too much, then we will have a little too much. So roughly 6 ounces of coffee. I'm going to add my 4th cup of soy milk. And then the recipe calls for 1 or 1.5 tablespoons of pumpkin sauce. I like to put 2 because pumpkin everything. And that's really it. You can, like we said, you can froth it, or you can just stir it like this. Now, we're done at this step, unless you want to take it a step further with a little bit of Ready Whip or, plant-based whipped cream to top it off. Which I quite enjoy. And then you can even do just another dash of pumpkin pie spice on top. For the pretties. And there we go. Vegan pumpkin spice latte. All right, now I want one. Because they were really good. Again, highly recommend trying this. The pumpkin sauce is easy to make. You could store it in the refrigerator. You could just add it to your coffee, just like creamer, and do that. So we'll probably be keeping that on hand.
Yeah.
For the next month or so until we switch into Biscochito coffee every day. But for now, this was really good.
Yes.
So, and again, this one will be on the website in the next day or two, and I can send out these ingredients for folks. All right. We had a few additional ideas to share, just a few. This literally just scratches the surface of what we came up with and what we like to do. We like to add pumpkin to our steel cut oats. I just did this recently and it's so good. I want it again. I like to add pecans to it because pecans are good in everything, but particularly with pumpkin. We like to make pumpkin muffins and breads. Chocolate chip cookies are good with pumpkin added.
Cookies, yeah.
You can make like Rice Krispie treats, but just add some pureed pumpkin to the like marshmallow melty
and pumpkin
part.
Spice.
And those
spice.
are really good. We actually just did these recently, and where we did the crescent rolls, and put pumpkin inside, and I think you put a little bit of sugar in there, and they were so good
Yep.
that I meant to take a picture and write out a recipe, but I just ate them all.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then
we did with the puff pastry too.
oh yeah,
It was the
or
puff
with the puff
pastry.
pastry. So maybe that recipe is coming in the future if I actually take a picture of it and write it down before I eat everything.
Yeah.
Donut holes or donut bites are good with pumpkin. You can add pumpkin to hot cocoa or just your coffee. So when I brew coffee, sometimes I'll just put pumpkin spice like with the coffee grounds, and then it brews it with the flavor, and it adds so much to it.
Really
You would
does.
really
I
be
was surprised. Yeah.
Bread pudding, we've seen recipes for that, and energy bites. You can add pumpkin to your pancakes, waffles, and French toast. Really, the possibilities are endless. If you want specific recipe recommendations for any of these, feel free to reach out and we can send recommendations, or have some fun. Just search this pumpkin vegan, and
You'll find it.
You'll
find
find
a recipe.
a rabbit hole, which is fun for if you like to do that experimentation. You can have a lot of fun with it. If you don't, ask us what we've done that's tried and true. All right.
Oh, and that last tip was sometimes any recipe that calls for butternut squash, if you can find like chunks of pumpkin, that's a great substitute in soups and stews and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep.
All right. So, and then, reminder that our website, apnm.org/plant-based, we've got tons of other recipes on there for you. We'll be adding these recipes as well. We have a vegan dining guide on there where you can find places to eat that have vegan options. More classes and events. We have our holiday cooking webinar coming up in November, and we have more guest chefs from the community that are sharing a variety of things. I'm so excited for who we have lined up for that. We have our holiday cooking New Mexico edition in December with more guests, more fun. So do check those out. Mickey and I co-host a podcast. We have new episodes every 2 weeks. We just recently came out with our Veganizing Halloween to give you more ideas for Halloween candies. We have a homemade vegan Halloween treats video that's going on our YouTube, Facebook, and probably YouTube in the next day or two. So check those out. Those are fun activities to do at home for Halloween this year or anytime. Because anytime you want to do homemade candy, check that out, and lots more. So we do have tons of stuff on there for you to check out. Did you want to? So we will hang out for a few minutes if anybody has any more questions that they want to get into us. For those that need to check out, totally understand, but
thank
we're
you so
still
much
here.
for joining us.
Yeah,
if you need to go, thank you. We appreciate you, and thanks for all the great questions.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So we did have some more. You had some more information about the pumpkin pies you wanted to share.
I was texting our chef, and she said that this year they used the silken tofu, but she thinks in the past they might have used just the soft tofu, and so that will change the texture. So if you like your pumpkin pies a little more firm, you might try the soft tofu first over the silken tofu. And but if you like it a little more soft and not super stiff and firm, try the silken. So it's one of those, it's a good excuse to play around with the recipe and eat pumpkin pie to figure out which one you like. So
it is a good excuse.
Yeah.
So that was all the info about the
everything else was correct. She said, just like you said, with the silken, it would be really hard to press it because it might start falling apart. So you just want to drain it well. And so there might be a little liquid that goes in, but it seems to not be an issue.
Awesome.
Yep.
All right. It looks like we don't have any more questions. If any come up, definitely reach out. We'll send out a follow-up email and you can just respond to that if you have any other questions, or check back on our website. Thank you all for these wonderful comments. I'm glad that you enjoyed the kids getting involved.
Yeah.
We're all home now and they like to get involved, and they love being on camera. If you can't tell, both of our kids and my niece, they're like, they really enjoy it. So I'm really glad that you all enjoy it too.
Yeah.
And look forward to, hearing more. If you make any of our recipes and you post them, tag us. We'd love to see that. And yeah, we will we'll tell the kids they did a great job.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll see you all next time. Hopefully we'll see all of you at the holiday cooking webinar.
I know
in
those are going to be
November.
fun. The kids are going to be excited for that one because that usually involves a lot of their favorite foods.
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Have a good night, everyone.
Enjoy.